Dee Willock has taught meditation and yoga for over 25 years. She has a unique approach that makes simple meditation practical and accessible to A-types who can't calm down, stay quiet, and find the center. Dee says you don't have to sit in a lotus position to tune in and turn on and turn inside. It is my pleasure to welcome Dee Willock, author of Falling Into Easy, to Studio 4 to tell us more. Take a breath. Fall into easy.
Exactly.
When did you do that the first time? How did you learn to meditate?
I was about 28 years ago, and I just made a decision. I had a very sensitive nervous system and was very reactive to my world. And I thought, well, this isn't the way I want to live. And I started going to a lot of yoga classes, and at that time incorporating a little bit of meditation. And then I sort of took the meditation on my own and started experimenting with it, because the traditional instructions of sort of sitting up straight, straight back, lotus position, legs crossed, palms up, completely did not work for me. It was really restrictive, and I didn't want to sit there thinking about how my knees were hurting. So I just started being as comfortable as I could, and that involved a lot of pillows, a lot of odd positions, but I just allowed my body to not be a block and just go in and find out what's happening with my mind. I mean, the mind is really interesting, and so I just dove in and got all these ideas about ways to teach that are non-traditional. So
non-traditional means you can meditate anywhere.
Exactly.
In traffic.
Right.
In a noisy spot.
Right, anywhere. And the thing is, people are actually meditating all the time, and I'll give you an example. Let's say you're getting up and you're just about to go out to the door to go to work, and you're thinking about the chores you have to do and the tasks, and you step out onto your front deck and the sun comes out. And in Vancouver, right? So the sun's out.
That's a rare day.
Yes, and you've got your cup of coffee, your tea, your favorite drink, and you think, you look at your watch and you think, I've got 10 minutes. Yeah, I've got 10 minutes before I have to do this. Why don't I just take 10 minutes? And you sit back in your chair and you have your cup of coffee or tea, and you feel that relief. And meditation really is about relief. And you unhinge and you release back into that chair, and for 10 minutes that you're sitting there, the chores and the tasks and the thoughts are just fading slightly into the background. You don't get rid of your thoughts, but you're in this sense of relief. And what does that feel like? It just sort of feels like I can breathe a little bit more easily, and I can relax a little bit, and I'm just focusing on the heat from the sun and the cup of coffee. That's meditating.
Being. Yeah. That's meditating.
And people do that all the time. They take a moment and they're meditating.
So we know how to do it, but then we have that monkey brain, the lizard brain, whatever we call that brain, the chatter person in our head, taking us off center.
Right. So what you do is you take that feeling of relief and you describe it. So what you're trying to do is sustain that feeling. And meditation is about sustaining that feeling of being outside that busy form of the mind. So in order to sustain it, you describe it. So you say to yourself in that 10 minutes, what did that feel like? Okay, well, it felt kind of like I was unhinging, and it felt kind of like my arms were loose, and I felt sort of more airspace. I talk about unencumbered airspace.
Right.
And I felt that sort of just that ease. That's all. It's as simple as that. I felt that ease, and I wasn't completely focused on those tasks. So then you keep describing it, and you describe it. And if you're describing it for 10 minutes, let's say, to yourself, reliving, strengthening that feeling, that's a meditation. You're meditating, and you're building your foundation of sort of somatic awareness of relief.
Right, so the racing thought stops racing.
Right, you've strengthened what isn't racing. And then they come rushing in. I got to do this, I got to do this. And then you go, I'm going to take a moment, and get some breathing. And we say that all the time. People say, take a moment. And so the more that you sort of show up each day at a certain time and decide to relive that feeling of relief, this is just one example, you enhance it, you strengthen it, and it builds a foundation. So when you're in traffic, or when you're about to go into a busy or stressful meeting, you can take that 5 minutes and go, what was that? What was that feeling? And that is your meditation.
Right. Okay. There. So say you have a shocking day. You get fired. You get a cancer diagnosis. You get any bad diagnosis, and you're scared.
Yeah.
And no matter what you're doing in your day, it's always there.
It's always there.
It lingers.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that?
You become the witness, the observer. And so what happens is you make that sort of 2-degree shift. So we'll call this busy mind, thoughts, ideas, fears, because of the diagnosis. And this is a form. We call that, a lot of teachers call that form. And the way to step out of form is you make that just a little 2-degree shift back to that feeling of relief. And then you've made a differentiation. And that's different than a dissociation. So you don't want to dissociate, which basically we were talking about before, was just pushing.
Right.
You're differentiating. You're saying, I'm observing the fact that my mind is racing. I have these fears. I'm thinking about doctor's appointments. I'm thinking about getting another job. And the witness, the observer, watching that busy mind chatter, that monkey mind, is more still. Is that in that place of relief?
Okay, so you step apart from it, really.
Slightly apart, but it's still part of you.
Of course it is. So was it Pema Chodron who said, use poison to heal you?
Yes.
So what did she mean by that?
Yeah, it's kind of like a homeopathic metaphor. But it means that you take that fear and instead of pushing at it, you actually, it seems counterintuitive, but you actually breathe it in. And
Metaphysicians tell us to do that. Breathe in the fear, take it, own it.
Yeah, take the fear in, feel it, find out where it moves in the body. Think, okay, fear, where is it? Okay, it's mostly in my stomach. I feel really sort of tight in my stomach. Let's breathe in there. Let's see where the fear is. And it's like anything. It's like walking into fire, and it dissipates, and it becomes water, and it becomes soft, because once you're inside of something, you're less afraid of it.
And you own it when you give a speech.
Yeah.
Same thing before you give a speech, trying to calm down.
Yes, yeah. And
Not the same thing, but...
It's very similar. And a good simple exercise for going into a meeting or about to give a speech is to take a few minutes and increase the length of your out-breath. Have you heard of that one?
No.
So you would just breathe in to, say, 4 counts, and then breathe out to 6 counts. And then you would breathe in to 4 counts again, and then the next exhalation would be 8 counts.
Right.
So you're slowly lengthening your exhalation. And just in that few minutes, it lowers your respiratory rate, your metabolic rate, just calms everything down. It's a simple thing to do.
Because as you know, when you're scared, you have to give a speech to 2,000 people, and you're nervous.
Jittery,
sometimes I get blur brain.
Yeah, and you just
can
not
barely
thinking.
Remember your own name, and you think, I've got to come up with this. I've got to get there, and that makes it worse.
Yeah, it does. So what you do is you get back into your body, right? Because a lot of this is it's your mind playing with you, right? So you get back into your body with your breath, get really somatic, you feel where you are, and you do that thing where you lengthen your exhalation, and everything just slows down a bit, and you get perspective.
Do you use words in your brain like, I'll be fine, I'm great?
Yeah.
I'm the best speech giver in Canada.
Yeah, for sure. It's like soothing, right? You go.
Then somebody says, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah, the other part of your mind goes,
get a grip.
Yeah, you're not going to do well. But you keep soothing yourself with positive statements, and you slow down your breath, and you just speak generally, like, well, I've done this before, and I know I can get through this, and I seem to be a natural speaker, and people have told me I'm a natural speaker. You just soothe yourself.
They don't want me to fail. They're just like me, and I know the naked trick. You pretend they're naked and you're not, and all of that. None of it seems to work that well.
Yeah.
You had an amazing experience when you had your daughter. Tell me about it.
Oh, that was great. I was in the hospital, and my waters broke at 30 weeks, and of course, you know, he's supposed to go to 40 weeks. So 10 weeks early was not good. So I had a private room at Grace, it was called Grace Hospital then, and I just sort of closed the door and put a sign that said, do not disturb, and I was in there, and I just made a decision, really. And that's what meditation is, too. It's a choice. Like, I choose now not to be run by these thoughts. You know, that image of someone, like, grabbing your hair, and, whoa, we're going over here, and whoa, we're going over there. It's running you. And I made that choice not to be run by the thoughts, the fear thoughts of having a premature baby. So I just sort of closed myself in with a sort of solid feeling of, you know, I was robust, I was strong, my body could hold on to this baby. And within 48 hours, technically, you're supposed to go into labor after your water breaks. And the doctors would come in, and I said, well, has it ever been done? Has anyone gone past 48 hours? Well, it's very rare, maybe, you know, 0.16, you know, there's one rare case where someone went like 6 weeks. I said, oh, it's been done. And they said, yeah. I said, okay, that was it. That's all I needed. And I just made that decision. So every week the doctor would come in and go, okay, your temperature's normal. Doesn't seem to be any fever. There's no infection. You're not going into labor. What is going on here? And I said, and he sat down on the side of the bed, and I said, I'm meditating. And he goes, you're meditating? I said, yeah, tell me about that. Right. So I told him the whole story, and he looked a little confused, but he was like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
And you did?
I did for 4 weeks. to the day.
So your water breaks, and
Yeah, on a Sunday.
on a Sunday you should have that baby in
Within Monday,
within
Tuesday.
2 days.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to have the baby early because then the baby can have lots of complications, so you knew
Exactly,
that.
yeah.
Did you take that out of your mind or try to?
Well,
the fact it could be a disastrous
For
result?
sure, but they showed me the disaster. They took me down on that first day to the special care nursery with these babies that were 2 pounds, and they looked like little monkeys. They have like still got the hair on their bodies, and they showed me them. Well, for sure, that helped, solidify
Right.
my decision. And I was back up into my room, and
Did you have visitors or anything, or candles or flowers?
Yes.
Or I guess you can't have candles in the hospital, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Did you just,
I really relished in it because here I was in this private room. I had dried flowers brought in. I had Gregorian chant playing. I had my friends and family bringing delicious food. I was having a ball.
sure, so the physicians are saying there's a loon in room,
That's right.
in room 40, but it seems to be
So it
working.
seems to be working, so whatever
you're doing, keep doing it.
Right.
Tell me about, is it Tonglen?
Tonglen.
Tonglen.
Yeah, it's a tradition in Buddhist meditation. Well, that's really when Pema was talking about bringing in the poison, Tonglen is really about taking in what you're afraid of and breathing it in and then transforming it. So it's like your body is this house, or that I have this image of a house where you just transform the fear or the feeling and use your breath and then breathe out relief.
Okay, so the house has expandable walls,
Right.
if you will.
Right, and that's Tonglen. That's
Aha. So to meditate, never meditated, don't have a clue. I
Yeah.
do, but I know a lot of people don't
Right.
meditate, are afraid of letting themselves go to that place.
right.
Don't really care about finding that kind of bliss or that kind of peace.
Right.
How do you start?
Well, I think one way to start is that story I told about the relief. Like imagine sitting on your deck and just feeling that sense of relaxation. And
Right.
then experiment with it and go, well, what does that feel like? Well, it feels like there's more space in my body and I can breathe a little bit more easily. And just stay with that. Just stay with that feeling of, this isn't so scary. I'm just breathing here and I feel more relaxed, so that's a good thing. And then you just do that each day, and then you find that some sort of creative genius comes in, and you start to experiment. You go, well, what if I could do this? Or what if I could watch it do that? And it becomes interesting.
Sure, the power of the mind.
It's
It's
amazing.
really
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Walk in the woods? Why not?
Perfect.
Walking meditation?
Perfect. Because it's like that single focus where you're feeling each footstep on the ground, and you're feeling the little wind on your face, and it becomes like a single focus with just you and
Okay.
nature. And that's
And you
meditating.
put the cloth footsteps down your hall,
Yeah.
didn't you, so that you could do it inside? Just
Yeah.
because you're just focusing there,
Yeah.
or focusing on a leaf, you
Yeah.
know, and watching the leaf move, and just stay there.
Yeah, whatever the
know.
single focus is.
I
calms the
try it
mind.
in the night.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you. Falling into easy help for those who can't meditate, Dee Willock.